everybody. Welcome back. We don't have a lobby yet.
Hello.
I imagine we're going to get into one of these game number 2s or 3s.
Yeah, that'll likely be the case. Worst case scenario, we're just gonna sit here and chill for a bit. We did have Zelaine hit us up with a resub during that break too, as well as CGDF Deuces. Riff, you worked that banana. Ace Lude, 34 months. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the whole, again, I guess, situation in hand for Pro League is unfortunate, but it's that's all I really got for it. I mean, I'm getting a lot of really nasty tweets and replies to things I had said, and I'm guessing this like 99% has to do with people very intentionally misleading my tweets on Reddit. If you actually look at my timeline, it's a little bit different than the initial two that were cropped out and focused on, but whatever, I don't really care. After the third or fourth version of someone telling me to kill myself, I don't really care anymore, but I just want to point out there, guys, that it sucks and it's unfortunate, and well, maybe I don't feel the burn of this the same way a lot of you do. Like, you feel like you just got broken up with your girlfriend, just left you and they get nothing. Like, I get that. I understand that people feel that way. I don't feel that way, and I'm just trying to look for the good in this. So if that makes me the bad guy to see, again, players that we know were forced to no longer compete in online stuff be able to suddenly do so, I see that as a positive. It sucks that you guys lose a big event, but at the same time, for us here in Base Trade, the community can certainly appreciate getting players like Solar and others to come back, hopefully and ideally.
Yeah, I guess another alternative way to look at it is just what was bad about Pro League, and bad about Kespa, because I guess we've had our own experiences with people's reactions to Kespa. So initially, I always thought that everyone was kind of on the same page. Like, Kespa was not the greatest. Some people even acknowledged that they were actually pretty terrible. But then the whole thing with us happened, and suddenly everyone's on their side, and it was very surprising, to be honest. But regardless of
Zombie is
that,
referencing Kespa Cup qualifiers for those who don't know what we're talking about, by the way.
yeah, and there's total non-acknowledgement of foreigners and the way things are actually supposed to be. But anyways, so that was surprising to see that turn around. But I guess to just again focus on what could be bad about Pro League and what happened. First of all, there's the big one, I guess, which we did talk about, which is that Brood War coming over Pro League, Brood War coming over to Starcraft 2 Pro League was not Kespa's fault. It was actually, I think, really driven by Blizzard, but that's another whole can of worms. That really saturated, the scene with a ton more players that it probably could not sustain in the first place. So as a lot of people will say, a lot of these people saw it coming and whatnot, and there's that. But the more direct, obvious problems of having Pro League, and this is something that actually could affect a foreigner team league as well, should that ever actually happen in any official capacity, is that it became the sole focus of every single Korean player. It wasn't just that they were being not allowed by their teams because Pro League was happening. A lot of them also just wanted to be they wanted to be that focus. So yeah, a lot of them weren't allowed, and that sucks for them. But then some of them weren't even thinking about it.
I want to give an example here of actually something, speaking of not allowed. Hyun has played in more online events than any Korean, right? And I love Hyun. He's also a very good friend of the channel, a fantastically nice guy, and we've worked with him personally for years. He wasn't allowed to play in things all of a sudden because he was on Jin Air's bench. And even though they knew he wasn't going to play, and he knew he wasn't going to play, he still had to be available to be a practice partner 24/7. So he was no longer able to play in 90% of the stuff we wanted to have him play in.
Yeah. So you had that whole thing go down, which again, I really am scared that would happen. The problem with a foreigner team league is that you have to find this really delicate line where it's incentivized enough so that they'll show up, because that's one of the biggest problems of team leagues, especially online.
We have a 9-person custom team league that is the most casual it can be, and we can't get the team league finals to work because, well, I'm gonna frankly just say because of Major more than anyone else. But secondly, we just can't make it happen. I would love to do this, but if we can't even make this happen small scale, I can't imagine anyone making it happen large scale.
Yeah, but then there's that, and then on the other side of the line, there's making it so it's too important. So no one wants to participate in IEM because they could get $1,000 for showing up. to their match, not even for necessarily winning it. So like that would be the opposite kind of what happened in Korea. So like in my perfect world, actually, Pro League would have been a little less prestigious and hype and focused on, but would still exist for those who would like to have that consistent team practice environment, but didn't have to do it. But it really became somewhere where like StarCraft 2 was about individuals who were on a team loosely, looking for individual leagues and individual tournaments, to everyone has to be on the Kespa team league, pro league environment, which a lot of people don't like. So you either joined a team or you were Beyond. It's like the two choices that existed before Pro League like is now gone, I guess. And while everyone will retire because there's just not a lot going on right now, my hope for the future is that it will return to a smaller scene, unfortunately, but a more stable scene that like was like 2010, 2011, where you had a lot of individual Korean players able to participate in the online cups, able to go to IEM, DreamHack, if they were lucky enough to get sponsored by a team or just a sponsor. Like if Red Bull sponsors one person, that's still pretty good, right? And not have to just rely purely on a team league. Yes, it'll be smaller and it'll take a lot of time to grow again, but that's kind of what I hope will happen anyways. And then maybe 2-3 years from now, the Korean scene won't be terrible. It'll actually still exist. That's the first thing that everyone's worried about. But I guess just again, hey. Oh, Carbot's on. Yeah, right? But like what's funny is that this whole like just starting off the conversation with like, okay, what is bad about Pro League and Kespa? We went over like the whole not allowed to participate in online cups, the focus too much, the inability to choose your own type of path as a player. That all sucks. But like there's also apparently some things to do with like personal sponsorships that Kespa just did not allow. So you literally had them have to focus on just the team, which is a problem. And I think it took quite a bit of convincing for them to even allow those zombified teams to happen. Where who was it? It was like no, it wasn't Invasion. It wasn't Dead Pixels. A foreigner team tried to work with the Kespa team.
No, that was Dead Pixels. Patience. No, it was Dead Pixels. If you remember, Patience was forced to join a Kespa team. He was performing too well on a foreign team, and they were gonna gate him out of
that's
everything.
What it was.
This,
yeah.
by the way, is not like super public knowledge, guys, but it's something that did happen.
Yeah, so there's another example of it being bad. But I could have sworn because like Gumi was on Invasion, wasn't he? And then he had to
same sort of situation. But...
Yeah, exactly. So there's other things that are bad, right? And what was interesting is I got to talk to Day 9 at TwitchCon, and I don't know if he like wants to be like super public or whatever, but he basically was like talking about when Kespa was first formed, how bad it was and how constricted they made it. So they've been kind of like the bad guy for quite a long time.
I get to touch bellies with Day 9. That was a pretty good experience.
But it was really informative for me because I love StarCraft 2 or StarCraft history, in general, and learning about people's first opinions of when that happened.
Yeah,
this was 2000.
Hold up. Let's back this up a second. You're making all these like build order tutorials. Like, who the fuck cares about medevac timing? When are you gonna start dropping some like StarCraft history videos, man?
Soon. It's actually a line of videos that I have prepared. So you can follow me on YouTube. It's Omnicub to see when those come out.
Okay, so the first semifinal will be casting, by the way, at this point, confirmed to be Ryung versus Lucera.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. The other semifinal will be Beyond versus the winner of Stats and Super, so a TVP and a TvZ. Nice. Perfectly balanced the way that I like it, with 2 Terrans.
Actually, if this ends up being Ryung and Beyond in the finals for the 3rd fucking week in a row, that's gonna blow me away.
That'd be fun. I mean, it'd be back like to when it was Beyond versus Reality. So
I feel like Reality, he was good, but that was like expected. What I find really awesome about Ryung is like it's surprising because he wasn't heralded to be that great of a player. I love Ryung to death, guys. Don't get me wrong, but really he didn't have the same notability that like Reality is as an example coming out of HOTS.
Reality had this upswing, certainly a lot because of Proleague actually, but yeah, Ryung had his own upswing a lot more recently than Reality. Of course, Reality at this point I feel is retired, but I'm like, don't quote me on that. But Ryung did perform well in the last season of either GSL or SL, I can't remember. And in general, has always been very good at TvT, which Olimoleague typically is. We are waiting for Lucera to join. That's what's holding us up. Yeah. I think it's such a different dynamic, Korea to foreigner. Ways that I guess the scene has been controlled and how it's come up. It's very interesting, I think, in like years from now when StarCraft historians will be writing their books and what their perspective will be on all of that's happening right now, I guess. That's sometimes what I think of, by the way. Like, even when it comes to, for instance, this presidential election, what will the history books be like when my kids are in high school? How biased will they be?
You think there's still gonna be books? No, backing up one second. You think people are gonna be able to read?
Chump will have burned all the books by then. No. Lucera is now here. And Korea does not need a break, so we should be going soon. Lucera apologizing, I guess, for being a little bit late. I understand some Korean. I got this. I'm ready. I'm ready to go to Korea. I know how to say sit please and give me that please. And yeah. Those are things you really only need to learn. It's fine. Give me that please being number one.
Oh good. I'll keep that in mind. I'll come equipped with those two phrases when I go to Korea.
They're really easy. You could totally just use that. You want to say sit please because you want to offer your seat to the elderly on a train.
Do I though? Because I kind of feel like maybe I want to sit.
You will be judged so badly if you don't.
Yeah, but those are all people I'll never see again.
That's true. That's very true.
Risto Ravioli says, BaseTradeTV, how will you deal after StarCraft 2 will be completely dead? I know this is a bit of a trolley question, but I actually would like to answer it. So I feel like, first off, StarCraft 2 is never going to truly be dead. We have kind of proven, unfortunately, in a small negative way here, that switching to other games is not as nearly a fluid transition for us as we would hope it would be. But I'll tell you guys, like, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, regardless of how small StarCraft 2 becomes, or maybe it finds some crazy resurgence. I don't know. At the end of the day, I still see games like Heroes of New Earth. I still see games out there that are just smaller, and they've got tight-knit communities that still run, still operate, still throw tournaments, thousands of dollars on the line. I don't think StarCraft 2 is ever going to truly be dead. That's going to require all the players quitting the game. As long as there's a couple of pros to play, we'll be here to cast. I think it's pretty much plain and simple like that. For those that are considering that question with any sincerity, I think you're probably too much on the doom and gloom train, man. You need to get off at the next station because things aren't that bad.
I can't wait for, you know, the day that we have StarCraft 2 tournament in a high school gymnasium.
What?
That's all I really know about Heroes of New Earth. Like, the one time I tried to watch one of their events was that there was a very poorly done tournament in a high school gym.
Oh.
Which I feel like it's not like it's at a high school gym, and that might have been like a really cheap, nice alternative to a convention hall, for instance, but that the setup they did for it was just very amateur. Like, the lighting was terrible, and they had the players walk in from like the changing rooms as their like red carpet entrance. It wasn't the greatest. Alright, all the players are ready to go. The cast is ready to go. Let's get into the game. It's a best of 3 TvZ on... Okay, I can't run Apotheosis with that. An Apotheosis-y. That can be a word.
I've got a hypothesis about Apotheosis.
Yes.
And that's that this will be an excellent series because we got two fantastic players spawning here in the bottom right. It's gonna be the blue Terran. He's actually been on the top of the Olimoleague charts recently. None other than the recently teamless Ryung.
In the top left, as the red Zerg, he is Lucera. And man, while we were on that downtime, I totally forgot to talk about other things, but we're in a pretty good TvZ, so let's talk about this.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you want to talk about. I was just going to quickly comment that Lucera has been doing some seriously cool stuff the last few times we got to cast him. I'm expecting awesome stuff out of him here, but you know, stats don't lie. And at the end of the day, Ryung and Beyond have been the last two. Like, he's been in the finals fighting against Beyond. They've played back-to-back weeks now. If they both make it to the finals, this will be the third week in a row, no less. And they've both gone 1-1 in terms of like overall Olimoleague victories. This would be an actual tiebreaker. So for me, there's a lot of reason I really want to see Ryung get through this over Lucera.
Yeah. I was checking because Ryung taking out a Zerg player in the past repeatedly in Olimoleague sounded familiar. It was actually Lenok that he had taken out last time. So 2 Zergs with 2 Ls. Okay, you can see where I could misremember that. But
oh, totally.
Yeah, the same person basically. But the last week it was a nice mixture of different races. The week before that was actually like almost purely TvT. And then the week before that, okay, actually I had to scroll down a little bit more. Ryung actually lost to Losira 3-1. So maybe Losira has Ryung's number and we'll actually see a Zerg get through. Thank you to Stelio Cantos for the 8-month resub. Thanks for everything, guys.
Stelios.
Glad to keep the sub going with you.
Stelios Cantos, Stelios.
Talking Korean. You shut up. No.
Say something in Korean. Nasamdigab, Nasamdigab.
He's gonna try to say thank you, and it's gonna go so
City
bad.
bus.
He's gonna try and say Steve, it's gonna go so well.
Steve City bus.
I can't wait. It's gonna be great. Feel, yeah. Anyway, so Reaper comes over here. It kind of sucks that Apotheosis is the default first map, but to be honest, it's almost like you might as well get over with as soon as you can, because almost certainly Lucera would have picked this had he lost whatever other map there would have been. That is how the Olimoleague works. Default first map, and then loser's pick from a limited map pool of 5. Okay, Reaper, you do you.
Yeah, he's gonna have a good time. He's high on those gold minerals.
Yeah,
He probably
man.
downloaded like a marijuana or two before he got into the game.
Probably. Ryung is going for a bit of cheese, though. There's an armory coming down on the way back, and this is just not something you see on Apotheosis that often. Even though Hellions are pretty speedy, typically, well, I would say sometimes, depending on the map, you can actually reinforce with more Hellions, more Hellbats. Apotheosis, that's not gonna happen. So this really feels not so committed. You know, there's not even a medevac with it. As the 3rd CC comes down, this really is probably the least committed you can be with Hellbats. That is a lot of Lings coming forward, though. Some of them dodging out what could have been the typical Hellion pathway as well, but Lucera is going to be disappointed if he's going to try and swamp Hellion or Marines, because it is a Hellion build. Lings should have no problem being dealt with. They might get us around, though. Oh, I thought he was setting up for it. He's not. Just kidding. And Ryung is playing pretty safe anyway. He saw the Lings over here, which... You see Lings, you know, more than one Ling, basically, on the front line, and you should be a little worried as a Terran player. You only need one to scout, after all.
I am truly impressed that this command center didn't somehow scumbag the wall over, by the way.
You know, Ryung is a master of questionable front wall-offs.
That's true, but I just hate that every time I've ever built a CC in a wall, it feels like there's always a hole. Like, it's just not intentional, obviously. Lucera losing an Overlord is going to be a bit of a supply block, actually, and this one that he's building won't be enough to totally unsupply block him, so a little bit awkward. Lings in hold position, get caught with some flames, and Ryung pushes this back. But despite the massive amount of Hellions in play, this is not going to be mech. It's something that for Lucera should be a little bit worrisome. Not because the Hellions alone may or may not do some damage, but these could get paired up and turned into Hellbats with a follow-up push of Marines and Medevacs, and that's when this gets a little bit scary.
Yeah. I mean, the timing on the Hellbats is almost like a counter Banshee here. That might just be the surprise itself, but Ryung could try and surprise what is he's hoping is still only Lings. I think it might be better to just wait for them to be in addition to the main army. It's going to take a while longer, and he's not going to be able to really do anything with these Hellions. Kind of sucks, but his 30C was still really well timed. It's already done in building SCVs, and his stim is going to be done too. All he's really waiting for is production. So I think, yeah, waiting to turn these Hellbats on the front lines will be better than trying to sack them for a couple of queen kills or sacking the actual Hellions for some drone kills. And unfortunately, these things are terrible now at cleaning up creep, so they don't. That's not really their job anymore. Queen's too good. I actually would love... Well, actually, the legality on that might be a little bit questionable, but for my StarCraft history episode, or whatever, I was thinking of doing one of the original StarCraft 2 release, like before patch 0.1, basically, because it was a silly-looking game, but just, like, looking back to when Wings of Liberty 2011 and how good Hellions were and how many different things there were, like meta-wise, like tank pushes, the slow, small tank pushes off of one base existed back in 2010. That would be a very crazy game to cast, actually, but I don't want to cast over VODs. That has some issues. There's some problems with that. And I would love if there was like an easily accessible like way to make a custom game on previous patches, but there isn't. You can play Wings of Liberty, but Wings of Liberty, with all its patches done, is not that different.
Well, see, you probably could set something up like that easily with a mod, but that's another.
Yeah, exactly.
Hellions and those medevacs coming out. I mean, this is some very serious damage that's about to come down. Because if those turn into Hellbats, okay, they might not do the roasty toasty on the Lings, but they'll soak up those Banelings real nice for the Marines. Or maybe not even going at all. He might Ryung.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if Ryung actually just uses these as Hellions, he's gonna bring them back home for the defense. It's a lot of Lings that needs to be defended against, but other than that, his two medevacs into the main uncontested. Fully unloaded and everything.
There's a Spore Crawler, which is a little obnoxious. It actually really does deter the Terran from pushing in too far. But it's a little farther back, so the Lings do not have that support and some stutter stepping. These are 1-1 Marines of combat shields. They're going to do fairly well against 1-1 Lings. Focuses down the Spore Crawler, and that actually gives him a lot more room to maneuver here. Only one Queen. Does not take a medevac out that quickly. There's so many Banelings, though. But that should be like all of the Banelings. He runs forward to the other group of units that were at home defending initially, but the Lings have been cleaned up entirely. Queen's now going down as the Banelings rush back to defend the 4th base. That just means that the two medevacs go back into the main. The two medevacs actually not doing too much in the main quite yet, so this is getting cleaned up. All on creep, by the way. Ryung was trying to blitz, so he did not actually clean up any creep. I guess Banelings were left here, so he had to be very careful with how he dropped, but there it goes now. Now it's gonna kind of get beat up, I suppose. Oh, it saves one Marine. You're the chosen one.
He'll come back for revenge, don't you worry.
But finally clears up some creep, but still not a lot. And while he was pouncing on top of the Queens and looking like he was going to kill them, he didn't. So there's a ton of energy to be used to further the creep spread. And Ryung, I mean, he's still in a very scary position. I mean, he's on 4 bases, or almost on 4 bases. He's got upgrades finishing up here. Lucera is holding. But it's a very precarious position for him. Please don't let that one Marine do anything.
If they kill the spawning pool, that would have been the most epic Marine of all time. Unfortunately, Ryung will not be granted that opportunity here. Lucera is too good of a player to make that mistake, at least. The Ultros Cavern's on deck, and we're going to start seeing this game really shape up in a very interesting manner because Apotheosis, very Zerg-favored map. I guess we kind of glazed past that when we were getting into the early game stuff, but Lucera getting into Ultras at this point is going to get really difficult for Ryung to keep playing with much further. His army control, his map control, he's actually catching the Lings down here at the bottom left. Like, he's doing a lot of things right now, but if Chitinous Plating completes, if Ultras start coming out, then he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
I think this drop really wanted to kill the spawning pool, and he's gonna try to. Of course, dropping one at a time. They get the banelings. Not too bad. They can focus fire the rest of the banelings here.
Well, if he stopped at Adrenal Glands, that's pretty big. Nice pick off there out of Ryung.
That upgrade takes a long time to finish. That's been researching for a while, but as long as the ultras still come out, that's an addition, not a primary upgrade.
It's such a sick way to bait the banelings over.
Yeah, very clever. Now, Losira should be okay now on the left side here. 4 banelings, a handful of lings. But he does have the entire army to worry about now on the right side. I think Ryung has to be careful not to be completely surprised by the Ultralisk, though, and should probably start already making a couple Liberators. There's 2 here. It's a pretty nice setup. Again, if only he had cleaned up the right side creep spread. Oh, banelings roll into Marauders.
I would like to point out the Widow Mines weren't even triggered through this, so he still has all the Widow Mines available. This was a pretty easy walk-in for Ryung, and Lucera's got things on deck and coming out, but that Ultra doesn't have He's plating. If Ryung focus it, it's going to die really quick. He doesn't recognize this right away, but he does as soon as he shoots it, so boom, bam, it goes down. Lots of transfuses also went into that Ultralisk. Cutting away for this one once again, and still that timing just working against Lucera here, and working so very well for Ryung. He does lose a base in the bottom left, by the way, but the Planetary is going to hold. SCVs die, 23 of them.
Yeah. Those were still well-upgraded lings, even if they didn't have Adrenal Glands or 3-3, so they chewed through, and there's a lot of them as well, but that was at the cost of quite a few Queens, quite a few Ultras. The Widow Mine's still not getting cleaned up here. Ryung is not pushing forward the attack, mostly because he had to deal with this. You know, a lot of reinforcements were misrallied, and the rest of his army was just kind of F2'd, it looks like, as the entire army comes back, including a couple of the scouting Marines. Scouting Widow Mines gonna try and get a good hit, but totally fails. How are the rest of the Widow Mines cleaned up, but this one wasn't? Well, it's gonna get hit.
They weren't cleaned up. He unburrowed them and pulled them back. We saw that on camera.
Oh, he just didn't unburrow all of them.
On camera.
Well, maybe that was just left intentionally as a scouting. It's finally cleaned up now, though. Now his army will push forward once again. It's so Marauder heavy that should there be a limited amount of Ultralisk, he could probably focus a couple of them down. But it is getting to that point that Lucera has plating, he has queens with transfuses, he's going to have 5 bases soon. Like, he could still win this game because of a missed opportunity to deal with the Ultras from Ryung.
He is actually missing a way to deal with the Liberators, though, which is a problem.
Yeah.
There's no Corruptors, no Ravagers, no Fungal Growths even.
Baneling's looking for the hit in the Marines. He's going to pick up and just not deal with that. Again, maybe he could have focus fired that last one, but he doesn't want to.
Alright, so he drops some units in the main, not a big unload, but he does get some things over to that hive tech. Queen goes down, drones get picked off. He's going to pick up the gas, which is going to be certainly annoying for Lucera. But for Ryung's sake, I'm surprised. Not only is he still up in army supply, he's still controlling Lucera's side of the map. And on Apotheosis, the Terran supply to get to that front line, it's such a long rally.
Yes, it certainly is. Lucera really needed that base. He's mining out his 3rd natural here, and his 4th is, I guess that's still okay, healthy. Oh, I thought that was one of mine. But he will want this gold base, so as long as this one isn't canceled or killed, I think Lucera is okay. But he obviously is having trouble getting up to max supply. His supply is strong, his ultras are strong, but as the Liberator count grows, as ghosts come in, that actually won't be as strong. He'll need infestors with fungal, he'll need corruptors, and he's not getting to any of those.
I would argue that the corruptors, or excuse me, the infestors being one of the more important aspects of this, with the ghost dynamic coming into play, you're going to want those fungal growths to interrupt snipes. The Liberators are certainly scary, don't get me wrong, but it's a ghost with a snipe that's going to kill your Ultralisk, not the Liberators.
Well, this drop shouldn't do very much. Oh, tries a focus fire. Only gets one of them.
Okay, some interesting micro, yeah.
5th base on the way now for Ryung. Of course, he already has a 5th base because it's his main, but a real one's coming down now. Another starport as well as upgrades. Lucera did manage to get +3 Carapace, so he's not fully maxed on upgrades, but he got the important ones. Ultra, unfortunately, chases a little bit too far out. Will die. Unfortunately, oh no, actually that works out. I was gonna say he's running forward to the Marines to snipe the Banelings. Maybe could not with Marauders. That's enough of a drop to kill the Hive for sure if it's not being responded to immediately. One Ultra could probably be sniped because it is already on half health, but Ryung is paying attention elsewhere, so we'll probably have to pick up here. Baneling hits pretty good. We'll get that Ultralisk. Also moving in here.
Nice. I mean, how many ghosts is this in play now? It's going to be about 8 ghosts to the 3 ultras. You have 5 more on the way, so it's not too bad, but still that ratio is going to favor Ryung in a lot of different ways because of the Liberator add-on to this as well. So high ground snipe's going to go off, 2 ultras go down. Oh my god, they just disappeared. That 1 ultra coming to the side is going to get liberated. Freedom!
Yeah, it is. GG. Nicely played.
I gotta say this. I cannot stress this enough every time we cast him, and I'm going to bring it up again here. Like, Ryung is such a good player. This guy has grown so much. It's not that everyone around him got worse or anything. Ryung has just gotten so good with Legacy of the Void. And, god damn, that game was a great example where he had a map that works against him. He had a player who was on that Hive tech and still pushed through and made it look easy.
That was very nicely done. So it looks like Ryung not having the troubles he did a couple weeks ago against Lucera. That is going to be Lucera's map choice. Unfortunately, one of his prime maps already over and done with. Might just choose New Gettysburg next.
We'll find out what he picks. Big thank you to Bronze Saint SC2 for the 9-month resub. I'm blowing you a kiss. Mwah. Catch it wherever you are in the world.
He dodges and weaves instead.
Yeah.
Dodge and weave.
It'll be like the in Wild Wild West, you know, the classically a great movie. The giant magnets around his neck, and you get the saw blades that chase you. It'll be like that, but with a kiss.
Or like in Friends when Phoebe catches it, but then immediately throws it back in disgust.
Did anyone watch Friends? Was that a popular show? I don't know.
Not as popular as Wild Wild West, tell you what.
Look, I will
Two
take
different
the hate from this Kespa debacle. I'll deal with people not liking things I've done on stream before, but I will not stand for those that do not like Wild Wild West. That was a fantastic movie. It defined a generation, and Will Smith is an idiot for feeling embarrassed about it.
He shouldn't be embarrassed about that. He should only be embarrassed about being a Scientologist.
No, he should be embarrassed for his son.
What? No, his son's fine.
Jaden Smith is like crazy, man. What are you talking about?
What has he done that's crazy?
Isn't he the one that has like all those hella weird tweets?
I don't actually know about his tweets. I know that he's in the Get Down. He was pretty good in the Get Down. So he's fine in my books. Hey, I loved the new Karate Kid, okay?
No.
That was a great movie.
No. We need to talk about this before we even do intros here, okay? The Karate Kid. Karate is Japanese. You understand that, right?
Yeah.
You've got the Chinese Jackie Chan teaching Kung Fu, which is Chinese, to the Karate Kid, which is Japanese, in a dojo, which is Korean. There's so many things wrong with that movie, okay?
Well, I'm pretty sure they actually talk about that because Jaden Smith keeps calling it karate, and she's like, it's not karate. But they just
Call the movie The Kung Fu Kid. Don't call it The Karate Kid.
I think you are one of those nitpickers. Do you also hate that like ramen is traditionally a Japanese thing, even though it was originated in China? I don't think you do.
I grew up calling ramen soup noodles, so I have no opinion.
Soup noodles.
Because it was soup with noodles.
You're not wrong. In the bottom right, down 1, this is a map choice. It is the red Zerg Lucera.
And his opponent leading the series with a very nice 1-0. It is going to be the blue Terran player Ryung.
Just imagine you calling cereal cold soup.
No, I didn't do that.
Can I have some of that cold soup, Mom?
You know what?
It tastes so
I
good.
think people are starting to understand Rifkin a little bit here. You know, those ketchup smoothies, the soup noodles.
That's good. I mean, like, every kid has one of those things, so just whether or not you remember that you were dumb enough as a kid.
Yeah, you're like, was I really that stupid is the question at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, going back in that last game for a moment for Ryung, really liked his end game. I love that he wasn't shy to get ghosts out. I feel like we talk about this all the time with Beyond, and it's like second nature. When you're watching Beyond play, he'll get ghosts, and it's going to be hilarious as he stomps everybody with them. But not many Terrans are comfortable going Ghosts, and it's not because they don't know how to use them, but because of how easily they are shut down by Infestors. And we saw no Infestors in that game out of Lucera. I hope he recognizes the problem because he is such a good player. It would astound me if we had another game, another situation arise that looked like that game 1, but he still had no Infestors second time around.
And Infestors could really, certainly have made a difference. I mean, he was holding on just barely, and if he was able to squeeze out Infestors, I think he could have kept holding on just barely. Like, Ryung was really piling on the aggression, but Losira was getting to all the points that can stabilize a Zerg. Just stopped getting to those points, basically. Stopped advancing to the late game. So, we do have Frost as the map choice for Lucera. I did expect New Gettysburg, but I think Frost, as long as you don't get these positions, basically, is perfectly fine as well. These positions, it's a little too strong to say that they favor the Terran, in my opinion, but it does make this, I think, easier for the Terran. Like, when the Terran sees its horizontal spawn, they're gonna let out a sigh of relief as opposed to the cross spawn, where it's a little bit like, oh crap, it's like another long map, basically. It's like another, I have to play like I did on Apotheosis type deal, where this one actually can allow you to do a couple of tank pushes. Your reinforcements will get here easier, so that last game where Lucera was barely holding on, he might not hold on at all in a game where the Russians is a lot shorter.
Well, Lings, unfortunately, are quite numerous, and Ryung doesn't have a proper wall, so it feels bad, man, as he will hold at the top of the ramp, but that got scary for a second. I guarantee he was a little bit panicked, too. That grenade was not well placed. If the walls were up, it would have launched the Lings over top of the walls.
Yeah, it was a little bit scary, but there was also like a little bit of a... Lucera kind of hoping here for the Lings to do something, you know? And that wasn't really effective. They just ran into a wall of Marines. It's not devastating. You know, he's droning behind this, and he's keeping them... He's keeping Ryung kind of honest here, because, you know, Ryung doesn't know if he's following us up with Banelings or Lings or anything more, but... It did not do what I think it wanted to, which is get, I think, a couple more SCV kills. So, soon enough, Lucera will have to deal with the double medevac drop. Are you trying to play the Wild Wild West song? You are trying to play the Wild Wild West song. Yeah, that song's better than the Wild Wild West song. Any song from the Spice Girls movie.
Because this was a great song to accompany a great movie, a national treasure, if you will.
Oh god, National Treasure. That's a good movie.
That was the no. Don't
Actually,
even touch that.
I didn't even watch it. I just heard that was terrible.
It was quite bad. Both of them. We got the drops coming towards the main. Ryung, once again, you know, he scouted with this. Lucera saw this, but there's nothing he can really do to react. So Ryung gets a full unload. It's a lot of Marines ready to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Lucera, unfortunately, was anticipating, I guess, to hit in the main, I guess. Sorry, the third base. But instead it hit in the main. So a couple Lings go down. The Queens are going down. Ryung, yes, he could have left immediately, but he decided to get the spawning pool. He loses all of his army for that. And that's always, like, the question was it worth it? Because if you don't lose all your army, the continued harassment potential can sometimes be a lot greater, or the pairing up later of 16 Marines and 2 medevacs with the rest of your reinforcements can be greater. Instead, now you're down to 1 medevac with Marines and a Widowmine, apparently, and that's just not as much to worry about for the Zerg players. So losing your spawning pool at a crucial time can be terrible. Losing it, you know, when the Terran isn't even ready to follow up is not so terrible. You know, as long as you actually have the larva to use the minerals you're banking because you are missing those Lings, then I think it can be fine. I guess that is one of the problems right now, is that Lucera doesn't quite have the larva necessary for that. And he probably should have already made all these drones and this lair, but he's a little late to it because his gas was not managed. You know, he didn't expect to lose the spawning pool. But now he's fixed everything and his macro is looking good again. They get a healer, SC, for the 9-month resub, RIP Proleague. But when one thing dies, another thing is born or something, right? So congratulations on your baby.
Rip Healer, man. I've missed Healer, actually. That guy really blew us away with, like, watching him play. Healer, come back, senpai.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're up now. Why couldn't you have played 2 hours earlier, man? Playing Olimoleague.
Man, people are really getting nitpicky about the whole Karate Kid thing.
Yeah, right?
That was definitely a 100% serious topic, guys, and you're rightfully so getting obsessed about it.
Catches a couple of drones there. Actually, what I find funny is that someone brought up the Zombie Grip impersonator. I am now famous enough to have my own impersonator on Ladder. Which I'm so honored. But they're, I guess, like, I don't know if they're intentionally trying to make a bad name for me, or they just, you know, want to make fun of me in a way by having my name on the account and our BM as well. But guys, like, I literally don't ladder unless I'm streaming, because I don't have any passion, and I don't play this game. I also don't play on the Zombie Grip account, because who would do that? Honestly. God, guys, please. Try and think, okay, before you just blindly believe that you're facing someone as amazing and popular as I am, alright? I'm not serious about that last part. Anyway. So, this game has been, once again, Lucera defending, which is typical in a ZVT. But I really think that it's just, not just Lucera defending, but that Ryung is kind of overcommitting to attacks here. In that last game, eventually his drop did damage, or it lived enough that it threatened to do damage later on. And in this game, I think there's been less of that threat. You know, it's still scary because it's horizontal spawns, and he is still having, like, you know, great macro, and he has this army to work with. But I do think that Losira has had a few moments where he hasn't had to been in fear, and because of that has gotten to a pretty decent macro stage himself. 4 bases, 65 drones just now, upgrades pretty on par with Ryung. Actually, probably should have been ahead of Ryung, but that's maybe nitpicking, as his hive is almost already done, so that's still a pretty quick hive. And he just looks well defended at every single point.
Yeah, it's a very different game than the first one, to say the least. This attack on the middle of the map used the watchtower for a bit of terrain. Nice. Widowmines gets so many of the Banelings on the back line, though, and Ryung, you know, I say this is a different game, I take it back. Ryung just kicked a lot of ass in the middle of the map. He's coming down the south side with another push, too. That drop that did unload, if Lucera defends over here, he's going to lose his third. If he defends his third, he loses his natural. It's a terrible situation for him no matter what.
He did have units defending in the main base that he just remembered to bring down. That was key, is that he remembered that they existed. Actually, Queens tried to chase this one, and no Medivacs going down, but that was a little bit scary. Trying to replace Creep as well, because it is starting to get cleaned up. It recedes a lot faster now, of course, in Legacy of the Void, if you're just coming back or something, but spreads quicker too. And as long as the Queens have energy to do this, then it should not be something that he can't replace, you know, and he should be replacing at every opportunity. A little bit annoying here because minerals provide a bit of coverage. I have to go off to Creep to stop this from reaching his 4th base, and actually this is a lot of the Banelings on the Marauders and Widowmine, but there's still enough Lings, it looks like. Yeah.
Couple Marines getting nice drone kills over here.
And they're pushing to the south side, however. Ryung has started his 3-3, and it's already like a 1/4 of the way done. He's also up 30 army supply, and I think Lucera is just now really starting to get run ragged. He has had to try and defend his 4th base, which I think is one of the biggest problems, because he is constantly taking fights off of Creep to do so, and without his Queens, just losing 2 more over here, and he's starting to lose out on Creep as well. So it looks like Ryung's just persistent aggression is starting to pay off, regardless of his losses. Now, Ryung is kind of like almost at that all-in point on 3 bases. It's always so odd to say all-in with 3 bases, especially to a Terran who can lift their orbital. But, you know, compared to last game where he did recognize that he probably wouldn't be able to win before Ultras, he already had a 4th very early. He's already getting Liberators very early. Here, if Lucera actually manages to get to Ultralisk, Ryung actually won't have that good of a response as last game. He will still have a couple Liberators and Focus Fire, of course, but he won't have, like, a booming economy to get 2 starports in a Ghost Academy.
I mean, it's still a small army lead for Ryung, but last time, coming into this, it was like 125 to 78. Like, it's actually way closer than it was before. Drop on the top right side, gonna kill that base by the looks of it. Nothing to defend it. Drone's just getting pulled, and yep, Ryung knocks down another hatchery.
Yeah,
He's gonna lose his command center
okay.
or not lose, but lift, but still lose the base for the time being.
Yeah. I thought that was actually going to go down. It was so low when the banelings are rolling in. But the loss of the 4th base is hurtful for Losira. He is replacing. He's actually double expanding because he had so many minerals. And I was going to say, he does have this imbalance going on here. And I'm not sure why. I guess this gas geyser went down, and maybe that's the reason, or just really needed the extra 2 bases, or gas geysers. Overlords, I guess they have speed, so not too many of them should go down here. The problem with double expanding on Frost, especially against Ryung right now, is that Ryung has been trying to pull him apart, and now you really have just gone extremes, extreme south to pretty extreme north, and you are, I think he's going to lose 1 base to 1 drop eventually as the game continues.
Well, unfortunately, Ryung is pushed off that base, that newly found security. Not going to be so secure. Command center actually dies. That's a big mistake. I guess he's micro his medevacs on the other side of the map or something, but for an orbital to die to Lings, that's a mistake that's not easily recovered from.
This is what's so frustrating to do this type of all-in game from Ryung here, is that when they get to Ultras and you do not have this main army of counters, you know, Liberators, Ghosts, in general, gigantic army, the Ultra defense is like a DT defense, man. It's actually worse than DT defense. 1 Ultra in every base can actually stop almost any drop, okay? Unless there's like 60 Marauder drop, and then maybe it'll have some difficulty. So that's exactly what Lucera ended up doing, and Ryung has not been able to tear down any of these bases that I said that I still think he will eventually, like one time Lucera F2s, you know, and he doesn't remember to put them back. Or he just straight up needs them on the front line. But for now, he is not killing any hatcheries. Lucera is starting to get maxed out. But Ryung is trying to recover. He was trying to build a base. Unfortunately, I don't think that was a cancel. Building that on location was dangerous. I'm surprised he did it. And I built it a little bit safer. But he's in dangerous territory, this being the last push he can do. I don't think it'll get swamped. Just the number of Liberators and Widow Mines is too scary for Lucera to push into. But it might be a trade favorable for the Zerg player. We'll see. Here it goes. A Spore Crawler is even rooted in range of the Liberators. How often do you see that? The Liberators do their job, though, before they die. There's still 3 more, in fact. And the Queens are all alive, but only 3 Ultras. And Lucera doesn't have enough bank to replace all that. He's trying to, and more Ultras are on the way.
I've got to give a shout out to the sort of silent heroes of this game, by the way. This series, even the Widow Mines have been doing wonderful jobs to help thinning the packs of units to deal with. But now, of course, they'll be able to get hits off on the Ultralisks, take them really low. Ryung with a focus fire, kill him what little there is left. And Lucera, I just want to point out we're in that situation again where he's got no infestors. Fumble growth on an army of this size would kill 100% of Ryung's ground army.
Only now, though, has he ever had a bank of gas, so this really has been a game where I don't think he's even been able to afford any infestors, actually. It's all been going into the Ultras.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Lucera is making a mistake by not doing it, but it's a very obvious missing component to the army. From what we normally see, you see people like TLO and Nurtu and others, because they play the Ravager style, they've got them ready to go. Lucera's style is a lot more brute force with these Lings, and it's arguably not working. And I say this mostly just because Ryung is taking a lot of these fights where he should not be taking these fights.
Lucera has been winning quite well in the economy, by the way. Ryung finally gets an SCV line over here. He gets mules dropped as well. This is his natural command center. So he's on 2 bases, and he can, again, expand with this base, I suppose. But it's still a very difficult game for both sides. Lucera is still not able to get above 140, only barely reaching 130. And just constantly threatened to lose all of his Ultras should they run into another Liberator field, but there's only 1 Liberator left over. Ryung is a very tough decision to make right now, to like either throw down another command center, try and live through this game, or to just put all of his minerals and gas into more Liberators.
Well, the army's still not fully healed up. I'm worried about these Widow Mines getting some splash damage, but it looks like the Baneling is going to be the only splash damage to worry about here. Ultralisk will bait the hit, but gets transfused. This Queens are pretty much out of energy, so I don't know how long they can keep that up for. But Ryung's able to kite off of creep. The problem is with his units being so low, he doesn't have a lot of stims left in him to keep kiting, and that's where this gets a little alarming. But Queens get picked off, they're caught off. There's nothing they can do. There's no running away. Ultras come back to try and support. Widowmine's coming off cooldown soon, and Ryung has really just got control of the situation.
He does. I don't know why Lucera is trying to... I mean, I think he wants to end the game. He thinks that maybe Ryung has more command centers than he really does, or he thought he was going to win, but I think it was very evident that his Ultras were not going to win without supports that he could not give. And that's going to be game. Ryung is going to take this 2-0. 70 supply up.
Yeah, it's not just an overall supply, but look at the army supply, right? Like, it's almost 1.5 times the amount for Ryung. He's on 3-3. Lucera never did reach 3-3.
Yeah, could never reach for that again. A lot of that had to do with the gas problem. There's the last Ultras going down. This one runs through Liberation Zone. GG. Ryung.
Congratulations to Ryung.
It's probably going to be another Young Beyond finals.
I hope so. I think it's going to be sick. It gives us a lot to talk about, but there's going to be a bit of a longer break here, guys. The Korean cast will need a few minutes. Amateurs. Pff, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. We love the Olimoleague Korean casters. If you guys don't know, they are casting in Korean. You maybe want to hear some of the Korean haipu. Make sure to check out their channel. I gotta give them a bit of respect too. We've watched their channel grow since they brought it back into things. You know, first week it was like 400 viewers. Next couple of weeks it was like 600. They're almost at 1,000 viewers today, so make sure to go check it out, guys. But as we said, there will be a small commercial break, and we'll see you all shortly whenever the other semifinals of Beyond versus Stats is ready to go.